Today's episode is sponsored by Visual Components, the next generation of 3D manufacturing simulation and robot offline programming software. Visit them at visualcomponents.com.
Aerospace and defense manufacturing.
Machines and automation.
Additive manufacturing.
Smart manufacturing.
The global manufacturing economy.
Welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals, powered by SME. From the design screen to the shop floor to final assembly, we drive the conversation about making manufacturing smarter by connecting people who are passionate about manufacturing.
Hello and welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals. I'm David Muller, Senior Editor at SME Media, and your host today. We're joined by Graham Wloch, Director of Business Development at Visual Components North America. Visual Components is one of the pioneers in 3D manufacturing simulation industry. They partner with a number of leading brands offering machine builders, system integrators, and manufacturers the ability to design and simulate production processes in offline robot programming technology. Graham Wloch is a seasoned professional with over a decade of experience dedicated to understanding and addressing customer challenges. He's driven sales growth and forged new business opportunities at Visual Components. His technical prowess, coupled with a keen business acumen, has not only revitalized revenue streams, but also established robust partner networks, expanded market reach, and driven significant sales growth, including breaking sales records year after year. Thanks for joining us, Graham. We're glad to have you here. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here.
Hey, Graham, maybe we could start by just maybe sharing a little bit about yourself, maybe some personal information. You don't have to get too personal, but maybe you talk about your personal journey, and then maybe from there we can get into like kind of how you joined Visual Components, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'd love to. It kind of it goes back to high school, which was a while ago. And my kind of love for this kind of stuff started in drafting classes, man. I mean, you were drawing on a board, you were using pencils and rulers and squares and stuff, and it was, you really had to think and you had to plan what you were going to put down on paper because, you really didn't get a second chance or you'd have a lot of eraser marks. So to have a good product, you really kind of needed to have it planned out how you would put it on paper. And, back into college and all that, I really always had that love for, design and drawing and pointing to something, saying, look, there's what I did. So I got a degree in mechanical design. I started to design end-of-arm tooling and lift assist and overhead rail systems, things like that. And that kind of led me into process. So you go from one station to the next and kind of understand how that interaction works. And then it was a pretty easy jump to simulation because it just took, the technical aspect of what I used to do and kind of applied it to not just one station or one process, but all of those processes and kind of how they work together. I started Visual Components as a trainer and a sim expert. And then after that, I had, a number of roles. I ended up becoming Director of Business Development, a little over 2 years ago. So it's really kind of been a journey where I've seen simulation at all levels, and how it impacts the manufacturing process.
So is it fair to kind of think of this as, you started with the manual drawing and like you had mentioned, doing it, on pretty much on paper. And then at some point you saw this kind of switch to digital and obviously have embraced it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a big change, going from that old school style to using CAD, where you could just throw a line and then erase it and try different things and different dimensions and different iterations. And it was always really easy to try different things and to see what worked. And, and I kind of compare that to simulation in a way where, companies are doing it old school ways, doing Excel sheets, doing tables, doing things like that. And you really have to be right the first time. And a lot of thought really has to go in. And if you make a mistake, it's game over. And simulation too is taking that old school way of thinking and applying new digital tools to make that process easier, to run all those scenarios, to have a better understanding of the process and really come up with the best possible product at the end of the day.
Excellent. And Visual Components obviously is known for its 3D manufacturing simulation solutions. Maybe could you give our listeners a little overview of some of the main product groups that your company offers and kind of talk about how they cater to different needs in manufacturing?
Yeah, I look at manufacturing like building a house. There's a ton of different aspects to it. And it's always important to have the right tool for the right job. You don't put up drywall with the sledgehammer. There are certain things that are designed to help you. And with simulation, we've got two product families. We've got the simulation family and the robotics family. We'll start with the simulation family because that applies all the way from concept and idea, right? You've got people sitting around saying, I want to do a process. We need to make a new product. I need to make an improvement. And there's concept and idea. And, a lot of times it takes people, many meetings to all get on the same page. Ideas are always out there trying to explain your vision. With the visualization of the simulation environment, it becomes very easy for people to get on the same page very quickly. So, you're already making gains right off the bat. Then, that same vision can be shared with process engineers. And those process engineers can be like, hey, yeah, here we go. And they're off and running using the same simulation, the same data, the same, information. You can give that to robotics engineers. We'll talk about robotics in a second, but they have the same data, the same layout, the same information. You can give that same data and layout and information to controls engineers. You can give that to on-site training for Kaizen events and use virtual reality to train the operators on new processes. So simulation really isn't for any one part of manufacturing, but it's for every part of manufacturing, cradle to grave, start to finish, eliminating barriers when it comes to information and knowledge sharing and siloing, and really getting everybody to understand it and really have a stake in that process and how it's eventually going to turn out. No surprises. Nobody likes surprises in manufacturing. And simulation really mitigates that because you know what you're going to get. You've seen it. You have the data. You have the buy-in from people even without an advanced engineering background. They see it, they believe it, and the numbers tell them it's going to work. So it really, simulation's for everybody. I mentioned part of that could be robotics, part of that could be controls, and we just launched our robotics family a little bit over a year ago. And what that does is that takes robot programming to the next level. I don't care what brand you have. I don't care what your process is. We can take 4 different robot brands, put them all in the same layout, have one paint, have one spot weld, have one arc weld, and have another polish. And we can teach all of those sequences based on the CAD geometry present. It's very intuitive, automatic path planning, where you're saving yourself hours and days and weeks compared to what would be online teaching with teach pendants and doing it, the old way. You don't need the equipment on the floor. You don't need the robot to be delivered, and you can still pull your process that much farther ahead by doing it offline, again, using the same tools that process and controls and all the other engineers use. So it really, takes that discrete event capability and really adds that finite detail of the robotic aspect at the same time. So it really makes it an incredibly powerful tool for companies that want to be proactive and not reactive when it comes to process and product planning.
Are there certain sectors that you feel are a little bit more ahead of the game, or certain sectors, I guess, on the other hand, that are behind? I mean, do you guys, I guess, like kind of that same note, is there certain sectors like automotive, aerospace, et cetera, that you cater more to?
I don't look at it as much as sectors as honestly size of companies, right? The largest companies out there, they've made an investment. They have a way of doing things. They're much slower to change. I mean, look out there. I mean, the old saying of, big companies eat small companies, the Microsoft model. I don't want to compete. I'm just going to buy out. That's not how it works anymore. Big companies don't eat small companies. Fast companies eat slow companies. By the time a lot of these companies figure out they're behind, it might be too late. So we see the biggest, market for simulation and people willing to make an investment and adopt the technology in small to mid. They're fast, they're agile, they can make a decision, they're willing to use technology available to them to be a industry leader, to get ahead of the game, to differentiate themselves from the competition. They're not ever satisfied with, well, it works, so that's good enough. Progress is being made. More and more large companies are coming around, but it's those mid-sized companies, those companies that are hungry, those companies that are aggressive. Those are the companies that really can leverage a tool like simulation and get the most out of it.
One of the things that I wanted to ask, just kind of a side question, you had mentioned virtual reality, and augmented reality and virtual reality are kind of hot right now in manufacturing. Can you kind of explain how that applies to simulation?
Oh, absolutely. Simulation, you see it, it's on a screen, it's a simulation environment, but there is a lack of sometimes a sense of scale. Understanding, what it's going to look like in a physical space or the physical footprint. I've actually been on site to a plant where they had to knock out the back wall and put a little lean-to there because nobody bothered to take a measurement of the inside of the building versus the line they were installing. So it really does help people to understand, to get into places that they can't see on the screen. I mentioned for training purposes, with our interactive VR, you can get feedback from people on the line doing the jobs. I mean, a lot of times once you install a line and you flip a switch and then you get feedback and then you have to make changes and then you do your tweaks and your adjustments. Well, what if you could do that ahead of time before installation? What if you had that line worker and honestly, the guys that design the process and the guys that do the process, they're never the same guy, right? So the guy that does it, he might have some insight into something on the floor that works better or doesn't work. So what you can do is you can take that virtual reality environment, that interactive environment, and you can say, hey, here's what's going in. Let's debug it now. Let's get ahead of that game. Let's do it. So when we flip that switch, we're up and running at 100%, and we don't need to go back to the drawing board. We don't need to make changes. We don't need to put out fires. And by getting that investment from, those people doing those processes, you can actually retain mission critical people. You can have people, have that better experience at work. You can have them feel like, their input is valuable, especially if it's productive. So, that VR again lends itself to simulation where it includes everybody in the process. Everybody understands, everybody has a say, and everybody can help make those improvements.
So, collaboration is key, obviously, in advanced manufacturing technology. You mentioned, with simulation and all the data available, teams at the manufacturers themselves can collaborate better, but maybe talk a little bit about how Visual Components also collaborates with its clients to customize different solutions. And then maybe, could you share some success stories where your software has made a transformative impact for those customers?
Yeah, I mean, collaboration and customization is key. I mean, any simulation company that comes into you and says, yes, we do your process, we know it perfect, we're the experts. If they're specialized, that might be true, but but you're the expert at what you do. You have that knowledge. You've been doing it, and you've developed processes that are, proprietary to how you do things. And with simulation, it's very important not to say, I know it shows this, but what it really means is this. If you have to do that, you've kind of lost your impact. So at Visual Components, we have a completely open software. It's more of a platform really than anything else. And it gives you the tools and allows you to customize your process according to your best practices. You have all of your rules in there. You have your methodology, and it really, can show you positives and negatives of those processes. And it really does go across all manufacturing. We have customers that have customized solutions for specific beam cutting. They have a way to do it. They've actually developed their own software on top of Visual Components, and take that to the market as a customized specific solution that they wouldn't have been able to do without that. Companies like FlexLink, their online sales configurators are based on Visual Components. We're not the experts in their world, but they are. They just use our platform and our technology to showcase that to people, so it has the exact impact that they want. And it can be done through marketing, through that process improvement, through different collaborations, and we're actually excited that our software can be used in all of those industries, regardless of what's going on, because of that flexibility that we offer in how it's actually used. We're never going to come and tell you, do your process this way. It's not how we operate. We're a tool to enhance you and your knowledge base and make your processes better.
So, the customer on the customer end, they can customize however they want. They can tailor it to their processes, basically.
No, absolutely. We've got customers that, have created interfaces with their data management systems. So, they collect their internal data. They hit a button, and all of a sudden it dumps out into our simulation environment, and they can visualize that data. So again, for people without that engineering background to be able to, be part of that process and understand it because of customizations they've made on their end, the value it provides to that organization is just incredible.
I think you kind of mentioned this, or at least alluded to a couple times, but it's intuitive enough too that you don't necessarily need an engineering degree to participate in this. To be able to use it.
That wasn't always true. Back in the early days of simulation, it was complex. It was hard. It was difficult. You needed computer science degrees. You needed hardware just to run the software. And it's come a full 180 from there. This software is run on laptops. It is process based. If you know your process, if something comes into op 10, A, B, and C happen, and then it goes to op 20, and C, D, and E happen there. You can do very, very complex simulations, because with Visual Components, it's all done through drop-down menus. It's all super intuitive. The product process flow is the visualization is all there. Statistics are all visually generated, right in that simulation environment, which is why it really is useful start to finish by everybody that just understands the process, or that has a part to play in it.
Is there an example that you could give off the top of your head of maybe a client that was just so far behind the times, just super old school, that really was transformed by using Visual Components?
I'd love to throw out a bunch of names here, but there are some NDAs in place. But I will just say this: there are some companies that came to us, and they constantly had problems with launch issues. They were always fighting fires. They were always being challenged on what they were going to get. There were, and it started to actually affect a reputation. And they came to us, and it's the same old story that, there's never a budget to do it right the first time, but there's always a budget to fix it. And when we went in there, we said, what would it be worth to you to not have to fix these issues anymore? Stop looking at Excel sheets. Stop, using PowerPoints to sell your vision, and actually go in and sell your vision and have data to support it. And we took this customer, and they're not a small, they're a tier one automotive supplier. And we went in and we were able to give them one of their first successful launches in years. And they were able to understand the process start to finish. They were able to have a level of confidence that they had not had in the past. It really got them starting to think, proactively instead of reactively. And it really started to develop a culture within the company. And then the first question always asked is, what did the simulation say? No more guessing, no more gut feelings. And, they have grown their use considerably. And now visual components is literally part of every department within that company. And they have gone from borderline, technically, irrelevant and with a reputation of issues, to now they are just killing it. And, we do that. I don't always want to, paint it as, only if you're, having, catastrophic issues, but even, small continuous improvement things, understanding, the impact of automation in one part of the manufacturing process on another. Everybody really can benefit, but it's a lot of those companies that really need to take that step forward and get it, maybe not even get an edge, but just even catch up to some of their competitors. It makes a world of difference. It really does.
Now, looking ahead a little bit, in a few weeks, we're going to have FabTech 2024 in Orlando. Can you tell us maybe some of the key solutions or products that you'll be showing, that Visual Components will be showcasing at the show? And are there any, particular innovations that you're excited to talk about today?
I'd love to share some of that. FabTech is, we're going to be focusing on our robotic product family. We're going to be focusing on the solutions that provides. We're going to, highlight how you can program robots, up to, 10 times faster. We're going to talk about how you can decrease robot downtime and increase that efficiency. We'll talk about, how different, processes can be done with robots in ways that maybe people hadn't thought of before, as all these cobots start to come out from different manufacturers, and how they can be integrated into existing processes. There's a lot of stuff. We have direct connections with, I think we're up to, over we just added a couple more, but we continue to add direct connections to robots, meaning we can actually program them in Visual Components, directly connect to those robot controllers for 100% accurate motion and cycle times within the larger simulation environment. And we can also, generate all the code in that robot's native language, so that can be, directly downloaded into the robot for touch-ups on the floor. We'll be talking a lot about that. We'll be talking a lot about, we'll be showcasing our virtual reality, and let you get up close and personal with welding processes, which is, not something we recommend in real life. But in the virtual environment, it's 100% safe and can really, give you some insights that maybe you've never had before because of safety limitations.
So you'll have the you'll have a virtual reality headset on hand there that people can actually do some welding.
Oh yeah, we'll even let them teach a little welding sequence and then let them see what that looks like in VR live. It'll be a really cool experience for people that maybe have been doing it for years, or people new to the process and interested in maybe automating some of that, or adding some robots to their manufacturing process.
Excellent. Okay. So now looking ahead a little bit even further, maybe just kind of generally speaking, what are some of the broader industry trends that you see shaping the future of simulation and digital manufacturing? And how are you at Visual Components? How's everybody at Visual Components preparing for some of these changes, or just kind of the evolution that you see ahead?
Well, simulation isn't just limited to robots and machines, right? Simulation also, includes people. Simulation and the way manufacturing is progressing, there needs to be more interaction of these processes and people to do that. So when we're looking ahead, we're gonna continue to add direct connections to our robots. We're gonna continue to add a lot of direct connections for controls validation. We'll have a lot of that technical stuff on the back end, but one thing we're going to focus on is making sure the human element is not lost in the manufacturing process. Resource planning is a huge thing, whether it's ergonomics or HMI learning or things like that. And as we continue to provide simulation solutions, we want to make sure that aspect is not lost. So we'll be adding things like that. We'll continue to refine those robotic processes. We're always adding more robots, more equipment vendors to the library to really give people kind of like a one-stop shop for all of their simulation needs and to understand how all of those interactions work.
Well, Graham, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. It was an interesting and engaging conversation. I really appreciate it. If listeners want to learn more about Visual Components, where should they go?
Well, the best place to go is our website. It's www.visualcomponents.com, all one word. There's a lot of information on there about the product families. There's a lot of information out there about, there's customer use cases. There's things about the return on investment of simulation. Tells you a little bit about how we do things and how we approach the manufacturing process. There's some contact forums on there that will get you in touch with the right office globally. And then we can, find out what your simulation goals are, and then specifically address how our product can help you achieve those goals. And not only the goals you have, today, but as you scale and grow, the goals you might have tomorrow.
Excellent. Okay, and on our end, to stay up to date about what's happening in manufacturing today and hear more podcasts, visit us at advancedmanufacturing.org.